In this video, I want to share with you how you can reprogram your mind by understanding Pavlov's dog's experiment. So let me take you back in time to a little experiment that's over a century old, but still incredibly relevant. It's called Pavlov's dogs. Now, if you're wondering, Will, what could an experiment with dogs have to do with me as a driven entrepreneur? Just stay with me. So I'm going to show you how understanding this simple concept can help you break free from limiting beliefs, change your programming of your mind, and ultimately drive you to even greater success. Let's start with the basics. Pavlov was a Russian psychologist who wanted to understand how dogs digest food. But during his experiment, he stumbled onto something way bigger. He noticed that when dogs saw food, they'd start to drool. Simple enough. But here's where it gets interesting. Pavlov then began to ring a bell every time that he fed them. And over time, he conditioned these dogs so that just the sound of the bell with no food in sight made them drool. They had been trained to react without even realizing it. They were programmed. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I'm not a dog. Here's the reality. As humans, we get conditioned in much the same way. Except instead of drooling at the sound of a bell, we respond to things like rejection, stress, or success based on our past experiences, whether we're aware of it or not. Now, when you're building your business, how often do you find yourself falling into habits or a way of thinking that doesn't serve you? Maybe you avoid a difficult conversation because in the past it led to conflict. Or you hold back from making a big decision because you've been conditioned to believe that risk equals danger. Just like Pavlov's dogs, we've built up responses and reactions based on these past events, and these reactions keep us locked in cycles that limit our potential. Here's the good news. If we can be conditioned, we can also be reconditioned. And the first step is self-awareness. Pavlov's dogs couldn't understand why they were drooling at a bell, but you have the incredible advantage of self-awareness. By identifying these triggers, those metaphorical bells in your life, you can start to break free from automatic reactions that don't serve you. So let's say you're triggered by a fear of failure. Instead of retreating or freezing up, start asking yourself, where did this reaction come from? What experience taught me to feel this way? Simple act of bringing awareness to your reactions can interrupt the conditioned response and give you a space to choose a new reaction. Once you're aware, you can start to recondition your mind, and here's how. By choosing new responses and practicing them consistently, this is what I call the excuse to results framework. For instance, if you've been conditioned to procrastinate because you fear getting things wrong, start with small, deliberate actions. Set one goal to tackle just one small task that challenges that fear, and reward yourself afterwards. Over time, you're teaching the brain that action isn't something to fear, it's something to celebrate. Another tool that you can use is visualization. Athletes do this all the time. They visualize success so vividly that their brains are conditioned to expect it. As an entrepreneur, you can use visualization to reprogram your brain to embrace challenges, to see obstacles as opportunities, and to build confidence in your ability to succeed. I want to share one quick example. I once coached an entrepreneur who was conditioned to associate sales with rejection. Every time the phone rang, his heart would pound and he'd find an excuse to not pick up that phone. By becoming aware of that trigger and challenging it and reconditioning his response, he trained himself to see a call as an opportunity to connect, to serve, and to grow. In just a few weeks, his sales confidence and his results had skyrocketed. So here's my challenge to you. Think about an area in your life or business where you're holding back. Identify that trigger and recognize how you've been conditioned, and then start to change the response one small step at a time. Remember, you're not a slave to your past. Just because you've been conditioned to respond in a certain way, it doesn't mean you have to keep responding that way. Pavlov's dog taught us about conditioning, but you have the power to redefine it. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what you believe is possible, and let's keep turning those excuses into results. I'm going to be sending a free copy of my book, North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love, to someone that comments on this video. And if you're loving this video, then hit like and subscribe to get more.